course. Hello, Kate. How are you?
I'm well, Mike. How are you today?
I'm very good. I love the way you pronounce my name, Mike, right? It's very I love the Australian accent. I've always been kind of fascinated ever since Steve Irwin when I was a child, right? Um so tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all. Where are you from? Where are you currently at,
Mhm.
etc.?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Kate Pashley, and it's one of those names that people have trouble with when they look at it, but it's just Ashley with a P. And I've had it all my life, so I don't have any trouble with it. And where I come from in Bundaberg, which is also a Queensland town, and it's about 4.5 hours drive north of where I live now in Brisbane,
Mhm.
in the state of Queensland. And so I was born in Bundaberg, and I lived my first 18 years on a sugarcane farm because my dad was a sugarcane farmer and he'd come from a family of farmers. And so I lived there with mum and dad, and I had a younger sister.
Mhm.
And, it was just pretty normal kind of family life, I guess. Well, I thought it
Mhm.
was because that was all I knew. And then when I when I turned 18 or thereabouts, I went away to uni, as people tend to do. So uni as in like college, so tertiary
Yeah.
education.
Hmm.
So
Very
that's
good.
that's possibly a difference that you might hear all around the world, is that we call it
Mhm.
uni as opposed to
Yeah.
school or college, maybe.
Now, you
So
also
it's
said tertiary education, right?
yeah, yeah, tertiary.
Tertiary
Yeah.
education. Now, that is something new for me as well. I've never
Okay.
heard anybody call it tertiary, but because we have primary, secondary, right?
Hmm. Yep.
We use primary a lot in the States. We don't say secondary very much. And then we would say college level after that,
Mm.
probably. But that
Yeah.
is really interesting. Uni
Yeah.
and then tertiary. Tertiary.
Yeah. Because it's specifically because you've got obviously primary, secondary, and because we didn't have a middle
Mhm.
school set up the way you may do in the States.
Sure.
Um, and then we go to tertiary. So it's one, two, three, essentially. And then
Mhm.
if you talk to people from England, in some situations, they have what they call college level education, which can
Mhm.
also be, I think it's equivalent maybe to our year 11 and 12, or possibly 12 and 13. But you'd
Mhm.
have to talk to someone from England to confirm that.
I,
So there's lots going on.
I think I'm gonna have to like do separate interviews just about education systems, right? Because even I'm confused about the British system, right? I have
Mm.
no idea, no idea. Um,
Anyway, so I went away to uni
mhm.
in Toowoomba, which is also a town in Queensland.
Mhm.
And it's about an hour and a half drive west of where I now am in Brisbane.
Mhm.
But it's up in the mountains, or up on a sort of mountain. And
Mhm.
so for me, coming from Bundaberg, sorry, which is hot and doesn't get a lot of rain and quite
Mhm.
dry. Um, Going to Toowoomba, where they have properly cold winters because there's nothing between them and westerly winds in winter.
Mm.
And then south of there is where we mostly get snow in Queensland, which I know sounds really weird, but around the
Mhm.
Stanthorpe, the Granite Belt area, so right in the
Mhm.
south of the state, they frequently get snow every winter. So Toowoomba in winter can actually be quite a chilly little place. So, you can
Yeah.
see I've got like up to the age of, so when I finished uni,
Mhm.
which was 21, give or take,
Mhm.
I'd only lived in two different places. But the interesting thing about Toowoomba is that it has a lot of boarding schools,
Mhm.
because a lot of kids come to Toowoomba, so kids as in children,
Mhm.
will come to Toowoomba to board because they come from properties out in Western Queensland where
Mhm.
there are no
Mhm.
schools available, other than something like the School of the Air, for example,
Mhm.
where they'll sit pretty much like you're doing now with the headphones on, and
Ah.
there'll be a group of them, and they'll all be interacting with one teacher, but it's
Mm.
all via Zoom calls or however they're doing their teaching. So
And
they'd come into Toowoomba. Yeah.
What do you call that that classroom setting where they're all just sitting there via Zoom that way?
Okay. So in that setting where they're all out on farming properties, maybe with cattle or sheep, it's called the School of the Air.
School of the Air. Wow,
Yeah,
I've never
yeah.
thought about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I
Hmm.
mean, I never was educated that way. I went through like normal schools, I guess, if you like. But yeah, that's the thing. So a lot of kids, after they aged out, I guess, of School of the Air, they would come
Mhm.
to Toowoomba to boarding school to finish their
Mhm.
educations, and so you'd hear a lot more of what you'd call almost a typical Queensland accent, which is just a little bit slower, and it
Mhm.
just sounds a little bit broader like that. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't speak like that because that's not sort of the area that I came from.
Mhm.
Plus, I was influenced by my mum. Now, she was actually born and raised in Brisbane, which is where I live now.
Mhm.
And so she sort of, her speech patterns were things like she would elongate her vowels in
Mhm.
words like dance and chance, for example. And I would always get, because you'll often copy your mother's speech patterns.
Yeah.
I would get teased at school for saying it that way because most of the other kids would pronounce it dance and chance.
Mhm.
Like the vowels are shorter. And so
Mhm.
I would say broadly that the shorter vowels like dance and chance are
Mhm.
more common in Queensland, I would think.
Hmm.
And the way that I pronounce them is the way that I received them from my mother. And so it's less common. And even now, where I work in Brisbane, I get people tease me about it. So there you go. And I'm 56, so I've been saying it that way a long time and been teased about it almost my entire life. So I guess the way I say sort of things like that is less common as a Queensland accent than the other
Mhm.
way.
Makes sense. I think that is a good point to iterate. That Australia is not just one accent, right?
It is not.
Several of my students, for example, are from Brazil, right? And
Yeah.
they all have different accents in all the different
Mm.
states, and they all sound completely different. So for those who are watching, Queensland is not just one accent either, right? Even
Mm-mm.
within the
Mm.
state itself, there are different accents
There
across.
are.
It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
And the interesting point that you just made then yourself without even realizing it was you said Queensland. So
I,
you shortened it. Whereas
mhm,
it's interesting. Sometimes I'll say Queensland, depends on who I'm talking to,
mhm.
but mostly and every day I will say Queensland.
Yeah,
So so there you go. You made my point for me.
it's true. It's very true. Yeah, yeah, that is definitely something that comes up is t between the different accents in the course is the vowel length, and some accents shorten, some accents don't. Now, would you say that across all of Australia, right? Of course, there are many other different accents and other ways of speaking. Before the interview, you mentioned Western Australia being
Mm.
very different from the way that you speak. How would you say is Western Australia versus your accent?
Well, for example, there's a town down in southwestern Western Australia,
Hmm.
and it's spelt Albany, which for me I would pronounce that Albany,
Hmm.
but in locally in Western Australia it's pronounced Albany. So I don't know what the reasoning is behind that or what the background is to that, but
Hmm.
that's just one example.
Hmm.
And there's always this joke about people in, say, Western Queensland, the Northern Territory, big sort of Western New South Wales as well, big farming areas where they have a lot of land and they don't see people for a long time. But there are a lot of flies. So there are more flies than there are people. And
Yeah, that makes
You-
sense. Yeah.
if you talk to somebody who is called a bushy, for example,
Hmm.
so that's somebody who comes from the bush, and the bush
Yeah.
is kind of anywhere not the city in a broad sense. So that
Okay.
if you meet a bushy, they'll
Mhm.
probably talk to you like this because they're keeping their mouth shut to keep the flies out. So they talk like this. You
Hmm.
can't necessarily you can't understand them terribly well because it's to keep the flies out of their mouth because there are more flies than people.
Wow, that is very interesting. Now, would a bushy say that? Is why the accent is like that.
I don't know. That's a good question. They would probably tell you that as their first reason because the unfortunately one of the things Australians like to do is um, I don't want to actually use the. Oh, well, I will because I know that Americans particularly like to say that they're pissed when they're annoyed.
Ah,
Um,
yes.
so if it's all
Hmm.
right to say that, I will say what Australians like to do is take the piss. And
Oh,
what
yes, take the piss, which is different, right? It means to
it
make
is
fun of someone,
make
right?
fun of. So,
Yes.
and another way of saying that is to extract the Michael, or
Hmm.
yeah, I know, right? But that's a different version of taking the Mickey, which is also means to make fun of.
The- There's a lot of ways to say make fun of somebody in Australia, right?
Yep, because this is my point. Because this is something we like to do, and it's
Mhm.
mostly just an affectionate thing. It's kind of like because we love to have people come over here and
Mhm.
tell them stories about a terrible wildlife that's going to attack you at every turn. But it's very important to have ways to say tease because we do it so much.
Now that is something that my students will definitely want to know. And honestly, I have the exact same question, right? Is
Sure.
Australian wildlife as bad as they say it is online? Because when I see Australian memes, I
Mm-hmm.
like it makes me not even want to visit Australia sometimes. The giant bugs in your houses.
Oh, well, I have this pet rat at the moment, right? And it's just
You're
it's
taking the
not
piss on me.
no, genuinely not taking the piss this time.
Oh.
He's not it's I use the term pet very loosely because he
Mhm.
just lives in the house with me. But so you kind of go, okay, well, is he a dangerous animal? Not dangerous so much, except he likes to sometimes steal my leftovers, which is dangerous for him. But yeah, there are. So I have rats, I have cockroaches, I have geckos. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've ever come across them. Tiny little, but the ones I have are only tiny little lizards.
Yeah, we have them in
Um,
Brazil. Well, we don't
you
have
have them in Brazil, yeah,
something like them, right? Some type of little
yeah.
lizard.
And they make this very very loud noise, but they're for such tiny little animals.
Hmm.
So in terms of living in my house, I'm probably not in mortal danger.
Hmm.
Um, But it depends. Like if you have a really dry season, for example,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of dry grass, you're probably
Hmm.
more at risk of fire, I would think, than animals.
Hmm.
But having said that, if it's been a really dry season, often animals will come closer to civilization to
Hmm.
look for more feed. So while we don't necessarily get kangaroos down the main street, um, you know,
Mhm.
you will see animals closer to town than you
Mhm.
normally would.
Makes.
Um, but it's like anything; you've just got to be sensible. I mean, most
Mhm.
snakes here won't kill you. They will give you a nasty bite, but
Mhm.
only if you really annoy them. If you go up and poke them with a stick, then you deserve it essentially. But there's one
Yeah.
particular type. So the brown snake
Mhm.
is a very aggressive snake, and it will come after you regardless of what you're doing to it.
Okay.
So they're the ones to avoid. But
Mhm.
essentially, I mean, you could get a nasty bite from things,
Mhm.
and you would need to have like an antivenin administered fairly quickly so that you
Mhm.
don't get terribly sick. But most of them won't kill you.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Kangaroos, I wouldn't get into a boxing match with a big bull one, because
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
they're big. Like they are big buggers. Like the big reds aren't called that just, you know, for a descriptor. They are big.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
what else? What else is?
Oh, one thing I have also wondered about Australian wildlife, is cane toads, right?
Ugh,
Because it's a very
ugh,
co yeah, yeah,
they're
I
gross.
know. They look
Gross.
disgusting, right?
Mm, mm,
Um, whenever this is actually a very common example that we would find in textbooks, right? Of
yeah.
ecological disasters and
Hmm.
intermingling. But in ESL textbooks, they are also used as a way to kind of show like Australian environmental culture, maybe, or something along the lines. Is this like, are cane toads still a problem? Is this like
Mm.
something that still happens? And how
Yes.
long has it been? Like 30 years now, right?
Oh, it's gosh, it's way longer than that actually.
Gee.
Um, so they were brought in initially. I think it was sort of around the start, maybe around the 20s or 30s, so the 1920s, 1930s. They were brought in to counteract the cane beetle situation,
Um,
uh, and cane beetles occur naturally around sugarcane,
mhm.
and so the the powers that be, environmental kind of people, decision making people, decided they would bring in this species of toad,
Mhm.
and I think it's actually a Bufo marinus. It's a very specific toad,
Mhm.
and it's not native to Australia, obviously. So they brought it in to try
Mhm.
and eat all the cane beetles, and they pretty much ignored the cane beetles and just started breeding. And so it's so they're pretty much in most states and territories in Australia now, and they are an environmental pest quite badly, because
Mhm.
they have these poison sacs just sitting at the back of their necks.
Oh yeah.
And
Mhm.
you know, if you've got a cat or a dog that's a little bit sort of, you know, curious, and let's face it, most of them are, and they go and they try to
Mhm.
take a chunk out of it, the poison can actually be quite dangerous for your animals. Plus,
Mhm.
then obviously, any native animals that get hold of them as well are susceptible to the poison as well,
Mhm.
because the toads aren't like a naturally occurring Australian animal. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
pretty bad. Um,
Mhm.
my my uncle, when they would get into his swimming pool, would shoot them with a little pellet gun first, and then scoop them up with his pool scoop and throw them over the back fence. And the
Uh-huh.
reason he shot them first was, if he just scooped them and threw them out, they would come back. Um, there are, you know, people have lots of inventive ways of dealing with them. They freeze them in a bucket of ice in their freezer and then drop them off a high building so they just shatter. But you know, the most traditional way that we have of dealing with them is actually just run them over on the road. Um, so
It's-
make of that what you will, but
that
it's just
that's
how it is.
Australia is an interesting place. It is it is a very interesting place.
It is.
I think most of the learners who will be watching this, I don't know who is going to be end up watching this, right? But they're going to have like an image beforehand of Australia, of this
Mm.
kind of wild, crazy place, right? And so far, you have not dismissed this
I
idea.
haven't helped, have I? No.
Slightest,
Look,
no,
it,
no. We
look.
haven't even
Honestly,
gotten into the emu wars or anything like
well, no, and we probably won't. I don't know a great deal about it except that the emus won. So
That'll be a different episode. Different
that's a
episode.
whole
Yeah.
other episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Oh dear God.
it's also worth knowing that there's another bird, like a giant flightless bird in North Queensland
Kookaburra?
called the cassowary.
Cassowary.
And
Okay.
they're vicious. So there are signs up all over the roads in far north Queensland, essentially telling you not to engage with one of these birds because you'll come off second best.
So the kangaroos will fight you, the cassowary will fight you,
Yeah,
the cane
yeah,
toads are poisonous, brown
hmm
snakes will fight. It's
yeah.
wild. It's a
It's great.
absolutely wild place. Yeah.
But I mean, the nice thing about koalas, for example,
Mhm.
is they look so cute, and you can go to places like sanctuaries and actually cuddle them. But there's one thing generally that they tell you: if you go to cuddle a koala, it will probably wee on you. So you'll probably end up walking away smelling
Ah,
of yeah, because they're pretty much drunk like 23 hours out of the day. They
hmm
have
hmm
like this only one eucalyptus tree that they can eat the leaves from, and they don't actually drink any water. So everything that they have comes in a concentrated form from the eucalyptus leaf, and it essentially makes them kind of tiddly. So they sleep most of the time because there's very little nutritional goodness in the leaves, and so
hmm
they sleep to slow down their digestive system. So they're pretty much sort of, you know, tiddly and asleep almost the whole time.
They are tiddly and they wee on us.
Yeah.
Tiddly, I think is a new word for me.
Okay. So when you're a little bit drunk, but you're
Mhm.
not falling over yet.
Okay, you're not just yet.
Yeah. You're
You're
at that point where you're starting to get a little bit loose and sort of a bit more comfortable with the people around you, and you're probably telling them stories you shouldn't be telling them. That's kind of
um
tiddly.
hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense, makes sense. Australian drinking culture, right? I believe Australians are known for drinking beer, right?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's so hot here, you have to have something cold to drink.
hmm
And it's I know that there are things like you put ice cubes in wine in America, and I know because I've seen that on television, so it must be true.
Yeah, it must
um
be true.
it must be true.
I would personally never do that, but yeah, I'm sure somebody does.
Oh, I saw that on The Good Place.
Oh my God, it's true. They did do that on The Good Place, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I've always assumed that was because that character was so awful that they were just taking the piss.
To be fair, yes.
Hmm.
But on that note, we are running out of time, unfortunately. Was there, um, real quick, can you just
Yeah.
throw some other words in Australia that
Hmm.
learners may not be familiar with? I know
Okay.
Rana, for example, is like sneaker.
Oh, well, runners or joggers.
Runners or joggers.
Yeah, or some people do say trainers.
Ah, yeah, it's trainers, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I say, actually, what do I say? Joggers, I think. Um, Bathing suit, for example. I started off when I was young. I learnt togs, so TOGS, togs,
Togs for bathing suit.
togs for bathing suits. Yeah, but
What?
I now say bathers because
Bathers.
I was embarrassed to say togs, weirdly enough, when I was in my teens. So I started retraining myself to say bathers because I thought it sounded more sophisticated. So make of that
Hmm.
what you will.
Very
McDonald's, for example, if you're here and you need a snack or whatever, McDonald's is Macca's.
Macca's.
Macca's, yeah. We don't say Mickey D's. I don't even know where that comes from, but yeah, Macca's is what we say.
Mhm.
If you're going to borrow your mate's, so your mate is your friend,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
but mate is also one of those words you can use in a lot of different ways. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, if you're going to borrow your mate's truck to go to Macca's, you're borrowing his ute. So ute is short for utility or utility vehicle.
Mm. hmm Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm
Yeah. So if you're going to borrow you, and I'm going to flatten my accent now so you can hear it a little bit more. So it sounds a little bit more like ochre. So ochre is kind of like Australian.
Orca is like Australia.
Yeah. So OCKER, ochre.
Why?
No clue. That's just what it is. So
Okay.
you go. So if you're going to borrow your mate's ute to go to Macca's, you better watch out for the cops because they've probably got like, I don't know, they're set up for to check you for your booze levels. They'll ask you to
Sure.
blow into a bag, and you better hope. And this is kind of like a bit of a joke. There was a song back in the 80s where this guy blew in the bag and the crystals turned green. And when the crystals turned green, that meant that you had too much alcohol on your breath and you were out of there.
When the crystals turn green. That's interesting. That is
Yeah,
very interesting.
they don't use that type of technology anymore. Obviously, we just have like the little detector and the disposable plastic tube. Like we're a little bit more sophisticated now, but not a
Mhm.
lot, as you can tell.
Yeah, you guys don't call it a breathalyzer there.
Yeah, that is another word we'd use, but it's like a roadside breath test, is what we'd say.
Breath test, roadside breath test. Makes
Yep.
sense. Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, that is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate. I feel like I have learned a lot
I'm
personally. I
glad.
Yes, my students, I hope, you know, will take away from this that yeah, Australia is a wild place and they should definitely visit, right?
Absolutely. Come immediately. We're a lot of fun.
Perfect. Okay.